Have you ever wondered, what if the heartbreaks, the failures, and even those quiet moments of silent pain weren't just meaningless suffering? What if they were part of something bigger, something intentional? In Zen Buddhist thought, nothing in your life is random. Not a single tear, not a single regret, not a single night you lay awake questioning your worth. Everything has a lesson. Everything has a reason. The Buddha once said, "It is not your enemies, but your unguarded mind that causes the deepest harm." It's such a powerful truth, isn't it? Because most of the time, it's not what happened to us that breaks us. It's the way our own mind holds on to it, replays it, believes every painful thought it creates. So here's the real question. Why does life hurt the way it does? Why do we keep falling into the same emotional traps, no matter how hard we try to grow? But more importantly, how do we break free? You see, so many of us try to outrun our pain. We distract ourselves with busyness. We numb out with screens. We bury our feelings under smiles and silence. And yet, somewhere inside, we still ache, still wonder, is there meaning in all this? And that's what this journey is really about. Because here's the insight I want to share with you today, maybe even the only one that truly matters. When you begin to understand the meaning behind your suffering, something starts to shift. Pain stops being just pain. It becomes a message, a mirror, a teacher. This isn't about sugarcoating hardship. It's about transforming your relationship with it. Instead of asking, why me? You begin to ask, what is life trying to show me through this? And that, right there, is the first true step toward peace. Not peace that comes from fixing everything outside of you, but the kind that rises quietly from within, the niches possibles and bring the cover norm, when you stop resisting what hurts and start listening to it. So stay with me. Because what you're about to discover might just change the way you see your past, your pain, and your path forward. We often think of pain as life punishing us, as if we did something wrong and now we must suffer the consequences. But what if that belief itself is the very illusion pain is here to burn away? Pain isn't here to punish you, it's here to awaken you, to shake you gently, or sometimes forcefully, out of the trance of comfort, of control, of certainty. The question is not, why is this happening to me? The real question is, what is this trying to teach me? There's an old story of a monk. For years, he trusted a dear friend only to be betrayed in the most unexpected way. People thought he was broken, lost in disappointment. But instead of reacting with anger, he sat in silence for days. When he finally spoke, he said, "This pain didn't destroy me. It revealed the part of me still clinging to false safety." That's the quiet gift of suffering. It reveals what we're holding on to that was never truly ours. The illusion that life should always go our way. The illusion that we're in control. The illusion that love, success, or happiness should be guaranteed. Pain strips away the layers, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. It invites you to meet yourself, raw and real, beyond the masks and expectations. And yes, it hurts. But not because it's wrong. Love is, because it's working. Next time you find yourself aching, overwhelmed, or even lost, pause and ask why the crazies trade. What is this pain trying to awaken in me? Maybe it's asking you to speak up, to let go, to return home to yourself. Pain isn't the enemy, it's the messenger. And when you stop seeing it as punishment, you stop running from it. You start listening. And in that listening, something begins to shift. There comes a moment, often in the middle of heartbreak or exhaustion, when the question slips out, why me? It sounds innocent, but it carries a heavy weight. It's the voice of weariness, of feeling wronged by life. It's the cry of a heart that's been stretched too far, too long. But here's the truth most of us never realize. That very question is what keeps us trapped in suffering. Because why me points outward, it blames, it resists, it fights against what already is. It makes us the victim of life, not the co-creator of it. But Buddhist wisdom offers a shift so simple and so powerful. Telling belief, instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is life asking of me right now? That one shift changes everything. It turns pain into purpose, loss into insight, confusion into clarity. Because you stop resisting and start listening. Real transformation doesn't come from avoiding the storm. It comes from standing inside it, with eyes wide open and a heart willing to grow. You don't need all the answers, but you do need the courage to ask the right questions. When we stop asking, why me, We begin to meet life as it is, not as we wish it to be. We step out of the illusion that we're owed certainty or fairness, and we step into the deeper truth that every moment, even the hardest ones, are shaping something in us. What if this struggle is building your patience? What if this silence is deepening your presence? What if the closed door isn't blocking your path, but redirecting you to a better one? We don't always get to choose what happens to us, but we always get to choose how we meet it. That's the heart of spiritual maturity. Not perfection, not always feeling peaceful, but being willing to ask, what strength is being built in me through this? Because suffering that is met with presence becomes a doorway, but suffering that is resisted becomes a prison. So pause and gently let go of the why me. Instead, listen for the quieter question beneath it. What is life inviting me to become? There are moments in life when everything feels unclear. No answers, no direction, just silence, thick and heavy. You look for signs, for certainty, for something to hold on to. But all you find is fog. And in that stillness, the mind grows restless. What now? What does this mean? Where am I even going? But Buddhist wisdom reminds us, you don't need to see the whole path. Just the next step is enough. The Buddha once said, do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. It sounds simple, but it takes deep courage to stay here in the middle of uncertainty and still trust that something sacred is unfolding. There's an old tale of a man who wandered into a dense forest at night. He couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. The trees closed in and the shadows felt endless. But with each small step forward, more of the path revealed itself. He never saw the whole trail, only what was right in front of him. But by walking it, he arrived. Life often works the same way. You don't need to know where it all leads. You just need to keep showing up with trust, with presence. Buddhism doesn't teach blind surrender. It teaches wise surrender, the kind that comes from recognizing that control is an illusion and that clinging only brings suffering. Letting go isn't giving up. It's choosing peace over panic. It's the quiet strength of saying, I don't have to know. I just have to trust. Because behind every chaos, there is a deeper order. Behind every delay, a quiet timing. Behind every detour, a realignment. So when the way forward feels hidden, when your next chapter is still unwritten, pause, breathe, place your feet firmly in the present, and remember, you are not lost. You are simply being guided one step at a time. What if the real source of suffering isn't what happens to us, but the way we resist it? Think about it. How many times have you felt stuck? Not because life was unbearable, but because you couldn't accept how things were. In Buddhism, this resistance is called dukkha. Not just pain, but the friction between reality and our refusal to accept it. And that's where true suffering begins. Not in the event, but in the story we keep telling ourselves about it. There's a powerful image that captures this. Imagine you're in the middle of a river. The current is strong, but not dangerous. And yet you cling to a rock out of fear. You don't move forward, not because the river is hostile, sullen, but because you don't trust where it's taking you. That's what most of us do. We hold on to how we think life should be, to who someone should have been, to a version of ourselves we can't let go of. But the more we cling, the heavier it feels. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean saying you're okay with the pain. It means you stop being at war with reality. You stop wasting energy fighting what already is. And strangely, it's in that moment of surrender that you begin to feel free. I once met a woman who had been carrying the grief of a divorce for years. She wasn't angry anymore, but she was exhausted. What drained her wasn't the loss itself. It was the belief that it shouldn't have happened. She kept asking, why did it end? Until one day she asked a softer question. What if this ending is not a failure, but a beginning? That single shift from resistance to acceptance changed everything. Not overnight, not dramatically, but slowly the tension eased. She began to breathe again. Not because she had it all figured out, but because she stopped trying to rewrite what had already been written. That's the quiet miracle of acceptance. It doesn't erase the pain, but it frees you from the chains around it. So ask yourself, what am I still resisting? What story am I gripping so tightly that it's keeping me from peace. When you let go of that fight, not because you're weak, but because you're finally ready, something beautiful happens. You begin to float again. You move with life, not against it. And you realize freedom doesn't come when everything is perfect. It begins the moment you stop needing it to be. After we learn to let go and trust the flow of life, a new question quietly arises. If I'm no longer fighting life, how do I make peace with it? How do I find meaning in the middle of the ordinary? The truth is, you don't find meaning like buried treasure. You make it, moment by moment, with how you choose to show up. We often imagine that meaning lies out there, in a dream job, in a perfect relationship, in some grand realization waiting to arrive. But Zen reminds us, meaning doesn't come from what happens to you. It comes from how present you are with what's already happening. There's a simple but powerful story I once heard. A monk spent years sweeping the same temple floors day after day. When asked if it ever felt pointless, he smiled and said, "I don't sweep for the temple. I sweep to clear my mind." It's a beautiful reminder. Even the most ordinary act can become sacred when done with intention. Meaning isn't in the action, it's in the attention. When you make tea and really feel the warmth of the cup in your hands, there is meaning. When you listen to a friend, not just to reply but to understand, there is meaning. When you breathe deeply instead of reacting in anger, there is meaning. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. This one, right here, is enough if you are fully in it. And maybe that's the deeper teaching. You are the author of meaning, not the seeker of it. It's not about having a grand purpose mapped out. It's about choosing to meet each moment with presence, with compassion, with care. Even the smallest acts, if done with love, can ripple farther than you'll ever know. So don't wait. Don't keep asking life to hand you meaning. Ask instead, what am I bringing to this moment? Because every breath, every step, every word is a brushstroke in the story only you can paint. And that story isn't written in bold chapters of triumph. It's made in the quiet, sacred rhythm of daily living. Healing doesn't begin with escape. It begins with presence. And yet most of us, when faced with pain, do the same thing. We run. We throw ourselves into work. We distract ourselves with noise. We wear the mask of, "I'm fine," while something inside quietly breaks. But in Buddhist wisdom, true healing doesn't come from pretending pain isn't there. It comes from turning toward it, gently, courageously, and without judgment. Because as the saying goes, no darkness has ever disappeared by turning your back to it. The more we avoid our emotions, the deeper they bury themselves. Not gone, just hidden. And over time they return, in the form of fatigue, anxiety, irritability, or that lingering sense of being lost. So the question isn't, how do I get rid of this feeling? The real question is, what part of me am I still afraid to face? I once met a man who, for years, carried a deep sense of unworthiness. The echo of a childhood where love was conditional, affection was rare, and silence felt safer than truth. He grew up successful, accomplished, but inside he still believed he had to earn his place in the world. He didn't heal by achieving more. He healed the day he sat with the pain, named it, and allowed himself to feel the grief he had avoided for decades. That's the turning point, when you stop trying to outrun your shadow, and instead, you sit beside it. You look it in the eye, not with fear, but with compassion. Buddha taught that mindfulness is the lamp that illuminates the darkness of the mind, not to destroy the pain, but to see it clearly, with kindness. Because facing your pain isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing you'll ever do. It takes courage to say, "Yes, this hurts, and I will not turn away." It takes wisdom to recognize that healing is not about fixing who you are, but about embracing yourself, fully, even in the mess. Only when we touch the root of our suffering can we begin to loosen it. Not through force, but through understanding and forgiveness. So remember this, you are not your emotions. You are the one who observes them. You have the power to choose how you respond. And sometimes the most profound healing doesn't come from changing yourself, but from finally holding yourself, exactly as you are, with love. Nature never clings. The tree doesn't hold on to its leaves when autumn arrives, not because it's dying, but because it's wise. It knows. Letting go is not the end, it's preparation. It trusts that release is part of the cycle. And perhaps, so should we. Loss feels like a collapse, the end of something familiar. But in Buddhist wisdom, loss isn't just an ending. It's often the space being cleared for something far more aligned. There's a saying, let go or be dragged. It sounds harsh, but maybe it's life's way of saying, you weren't meant to carry this any longer. I once met a man who lost everything in a single year. His job, his marriage, his home. He described that time as if standing in a burned-down forest. Everything he had built, gone. At first, all he saw was ash. But months later, he began to notice small things. The sound of his breath, the kindness of strangers, the way the sun still rose even when he didn't want to. And slowly he started planting again. Not the same life as before, but a new one, rooted deeper. Not in achievement, but in presence. Not in control, but in trust. That's the hidden power of loss. It strips away what is no longer true, so what is essential can finally take root. Your breath knows this rhythm. Inhale, receive. Exhale, release. You never hold your breath forever. So why hold on to pain longer than it's meant to stay? Loss doesn't always feel like a gift, but very often it is a sacred redirection. So when something falls away, a plan, a person, a version of yourself, instead of asking, why is this happening to me, try asking, what is this making room for? Because the soil of your suffering might just be the ground where your true self begins to bloom. And sometimes what looks like falling apart is really falling into place. We spend so much of our lives trying to decode it all. Why did this happen? What does it mean? Where is it all going? We chase clarity like it's a prize we'll unlock once we suffer enough, think enough, analyze enough. But the truth is, life isn't a riddle to solve. It's a moment to live. In Buddhism, awakening isn't about having the answers. It's about learning to be here. In this breath, in this body, in this very moment. There's a famous Zen story. A student asks his master, what is enlightenment? The master replies, when hungry, eat. When tired, sleep. That's it. Not a grand philosophy, not a mystical experience, just the radical simplicity of presence. Because presence is more powerful than explanation. A flame doesn't need to know where the spark came from in order to shine. It simply burns. And you don't need to understand every detail of your past, every twist of fate, every unanswered prayer. In order to live fully, to love deeply, to show up with heart, the mind craves certainty. It wants patterns, reasons, labels. But the soul just wants you to wake up, to notice the sky, to feel the softness in a hug, to drink tea and actually taste it. Understanding may come later, or not at all. But aliveness is available right now. So instead of constantly asking why, try asking, am I here? Am I truly awake in this moment? Or am I lost in thought, in fear, in memory? Because sometimes peace isn't found through knowing more. It's found through needing less. Perhaps life has never been punishment or coincidence. It has always been gentle guidance through the smallest things, a passing glance, a deep breath, a quiet moment you didn't expect. Every day is a classroom. Every moment is a mirror, reflecting not just the world around you, but the parts within you waiting to be seen. And when you finally slow down, the question is no longer, what is happening to me? But rather, who is this moment inviting me to become? You don't need to understand everything. You don't need to be fully ready. You just need to show up, fully, honestly, and with an open heart. Because right here, in this very moment, you are being shaped into something greater. If this video touched something deep inside you, please like it to let me know you're here with me. And subscribe to the channel to keep walking this journey of awakening, healing, and returning to yourself. If you know someone who needs this gentle reminder too, share this video with them. Because maybe, just maybe, what you share today could be the light for someone still walking quietly through the dark.